The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
TI Trust stands for True Integrity. One of our core values that we had for our staff was integrity.
We want to be seen as a very integrity-driven company.
We've been doing trust services as an organization since the 1950s. It's all based on what's in the best interest of the clients.
At the end of the day, it's about serving that client and getting to a result that they need.
Hi, I'm Ron Kincher with Muddy River News, and welcome to our Business Spotlight brought to you by TI Trust. And we have Scott Koontz from Koontz Builders with us today. Yeah. And Scott's the son of Dale, who originated the company and from 50 years ago, 50-year anniversary. So how long have you been with Koontz Builders?
Yeah, I joined the business 1999, so I'm going on 24 years this year.
But you officially joined the business, or did your dad drag you along and say, go pick up those bricks?
No, it's crazy because my dad was just a regular dude, not very great in school, but a really hard worker. Grew up on a farm, and after working for some other local contractors, he decided, you know what, I think I can do this myself.
Right.
He decided he was going to go out and do it. But all the while that my brother and I were growing up, my parents never said or acted like, oh, you should do this. I think my dad always thought, oh, you guys will go off to college, you'll do something else, it'll be great. And I don't think at the time he understood what a nice business he was building. So my brother was the first one to come back in 1996 and join the family business. And then 1999, I joined the family business. So, yeah.
So you weren't like a teenager, 16 years old, working for your dad?
For sure, we did some of that kind of summer help. I mean, I didn't learn anything. You know, my dad fixed everything in our house, and he took care of everything. So I never really picked up a lot of those early handyman skills. But you know, we carried lumber or swept out job sites and did stuff like that. So
obviously it's 50 years ago, and you probably don't remember when he first started the business, but you've been a part of the growth over the course of those 50 years. What were the types of projects that your dad was doing when the company originated? Yeah,
for sure. At the beginning, it was all just new custom homes. So I mean, you know, I've got a copy of the first contract ever signed. Cool. 1,400 square foot house for $32,000.
It was a brand new house.
Brand new house. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was really all custom homes to get started. I mean, that's just what he wanted to do. He never really liked to do a lot of remodeling or tearing and stuff. He would do it once in a while for people, but you know, back in 2008, 2009, we had this little thing called the Great Recession, and nobody was building any new homes, and so we kind of really expanded a lot more to do a ton more remodeling, additions, basements, all that kind of stuff. So that's really become a huge part of our business in the last 15 years especially.
So when he started, was it just him, or did he have a couple of guys he worked with? Or?
So the name is Dale Koontz Builder.
Correct.
Obviously, that was my dad. But really, the story we tell is it was always my mom and dad. She was the bookkeeper, phone answerer, and all that kind of stuff, and kid wrangler. And then my dad actually had a guy that he hired from church that he knew, started on day one. So it was at least a two-man operation.
Two-man crew.
That guy worked for us for 47 years. So he just retired a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah, so did that gentleman pass along a lot of knowledge to you as you took over the business?
Yeah, you know, it's a different set of things. Dave was a super talented carpenter, and he brought his brother, who started a couple years later. That guy worked for us for 44 years. They had a cousin. He worked for us for 30 years. So it was really kind of a small family kind of operation. When Tim and I came in, we both did work in the field, did some hands-on work, but really at that point, you're talking late 90s, early 2000s, the company started to grow and change and become an entity more that, you know, we became more managers than workers.
Right.
So you know, yes, Dave taught us a lot and taught the next generation of guys a lot. But yeah, Tim's role and my role has really been, especially again the last 15 years, more management.
Now, when your dad 50 years ago, did he feel there was a need for another contractor in town, or did he just want to start something on his own?
Yeah, I think it was just a case of he was working real hard for himself, you know, for somebody else.
Yes.
And then he felt like, even though I said, you know, he wasn't a particularly great student, he was very astute, and he understood how to make money and what it would take, how to make people happy.
Well, it's about relationships, really, what you get, especially in Quincy. It's all about relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know that it was any great market research. It was just understanding, you know what, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for myself.
Right.
and do this myself. You know, not everybody's cut out to be a business owner. Some people would rather just work for someone.
Right.
But that wasn't my dad.
Do you have any idea that how long he was at it before he thought, okay, this may actually work?
You know, that's a great question. I'm not sure I've asked. My dad passed away in 2019, right. And I don't know that I remember having that exact conversation. But I mean, he signed that first house before he quit working where he was,
right.
And then he just really rolled. You know, he got that one, and then he sold another one, and he sold another one, and it kept going. And you know, what we say is, because just what you said about relationships, he operated with integrity. He did a really great job. And that word spread, you know, and kept him going.
Well, what's amazing is over the course of the 50 years, it got to the point where you were developing your own subdivisions,
right.
And then you have built condominium places around
townhouses,
town.
Apartment homes, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to drive down the street without seeing something that you guys have built.
That's really right. I mean, to me, I think that's the thing that probably people don't understand about my dad. He was only 6-7 years in the business, and he decided he was gonna do his first apartment.
Oh,
complex.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean. So it was the late 70s, early 80s, and he said, you know what? I think he had read an article somewhere in one of the trade magazines that said, you know, doing apartments is a good kind of combo business for a guy that's a builder, because you can build them yourself, and you know how to kind of maintain them and that. And so he bought a piece of ground down on Harrison Street next to what's now Hy-Vee,
right.
And yeah, built those apartments. So
the amazing part, though, is only being in business for 6 years, he was able to get a loan. That's my perspective about this. That he obviously had a relationship with a bank.
That's exactly right.
That believed in him.
That's exactly right. We've done business with First Bankers Trust for a long time, and my dad would tell you that Don Ganuzzi was there, and you know was happy to loan him the money. It was a different time, you know, for sure. I think
right.
A little bit of sweat equity and stuff, and they were willing to lend. And he will also tell you that in 1980, you know, interest rates were 14, 15, and the rates just kept climbing. So yeah, it was a challenge, I'm sure.
One thing I had written down to talk to you about was you obviously have great relationships with your customers and all that, but to be successful in what you do for 50 years, you also need great relationships with other businesses in town that provide the product to your clients, whether it's kitchen, bath, carpeting, yada, 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 because you have to work hand in hand with those guys.
We just spent an hour this morning. We have 5 years ago, we started what we call our Founders Day breakfast. So the whole point is to bring all of those people in, the drywall guy, the insulation guy, the tile guy, the kitchen and bath vendors, the lumber yards, and just say, hey man, we appreciate what you're doing for us, because it's certainly not just me and my brother. And you know, now I've got a third generation. It's not just our family. It's not even just our own employees, but it takes all those people to make this thing really happen.
Yeah.
So for sure, being part of that broader team, and treating those people with respect and integrity, and doing the best job, and paying your bills on time, and all that kind of stuff.
So how many employees do you actually have in-house?
27, 28, something like that.
And then you do the actual construction work. You don't outsource any of that piece, do you? You mentioned a drywall guy.
Yeah, so we'll, somebody's going to do the foundation work. Well, a lot of times we'll do our own flat concrete. We'll do all the framing. We bring in your electrician, plumber, HVAC guy.
Gotcha.
Usually we'll have somebody else hang and finish the drywall. We'll do our own painting. We'll do our own cabinetry and installation and stuff. So we have a lot of things we can do. We choose which ones we do.
So there's the first thing I picture is there's a lot of plates spinning.
Yes.
Anytime anything goes, because if a project takes longer in one place, it's going to delay the project here. So do you see that as the foremost challenge you guys have as a business? We spend
an inordinate amount of time, figuring out where all, I have a half a dozen people that work in the office between sales, estimating. I have a full-time property manager, those kind of people. But we have 22, 23 people that every day somebody has to say, okay, well, where are you going tomorrow?
Right.
What are you working on? What supplies do you need to make this all work? So, it's quite an operation.
I think that would be the hardest part of it. And then I think with the changing prices that you guys face, especially over the course of the pandemic, is I don't want to say pad, that's the worst thing, but getting your estimates correct that you give to customers, because you could give me an estimate today, and then 4 months from now when I decide to pull the trigger, the cost for wood could double. Yeah. I think that's got to be a challenge for you guys on a daily basis.
For sure, our industry is struggling to figure out, in times of relatively stable pricing, no big deal.
Right.
But what we saw in 20 and 21, different than the used car market or any of the other stuff, you can't predict. So, yeah, we definitely had to make some shifts. We generally would offer you a fixed price. You want to do a project, here's the price. Sometimes we've had to change to just saying, hey, we'll do cost plus a certain margin for our overhead and profit, because the costs are so fluid, you can't nail it down in time.
So you would actually give, here's my cost, and obviously that would fluctuate. Well, that's pretty impressive that you would do that. You would. Not a lot of people show their costs.
Right. No, I mean it's a way of doing business, and
it's a trusting way to doing business too.
Sure. I mean, and we would just have to agree. Hey, what's a fair profit and overhead number that we can agree on, that we can run our business, and that you're satisfied to pay for our expertise.
I think most people obviously know that you need to make a profit, otherwise you won't be there next year. Right. So do you warranty your work?
Absolutely.
So how does that work?
Yeah, so, if we built you a new house, generally what we'll say is, hey, 90 days after you're in, we're going to come back and just take a look around. There's always little tweaks and things that settle, or maybe we missed something, so we're going to come back in 90 days. Then we also tell you we'll come back a year later and just check everything over. I don't want to give away the company's secrets, but I think the truth is, a lot longer than a year later, we're going to make sure that we treat you right. You said to me, it's a small town. You can't hide.
No, you can't. Not in Quincy.
So if we did your work, we want to treat you right, and sometimes that means a lot longer than a year. But we're going to do what we think is right and fair, and what you think is right and fair, so that at the end you say, hey, those guys, they were good to work with.
50 years, obviously, a very long time, and how has the industry changed? We talked about pricing, but obviously a house you built 45 years ago is not the same house you would build now.
Yeah.
So has there been any trends that you guys have seen over the course of the years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess first I'll tell you about what's the same. It's really funny. I could show you a picture of an Amish barn raising from 1900 and then drive you out to one of our framing sites, and you would say, it looks like basically the same type of construction.
Right.
We're still using
it's the only way it's got to stay
2x4 lumber and going this way and going that way, and so in a sense, construction is an industry that hasn't done a ton of technological leaps. Now, having said that, there's all kinds of stuff out there in the world, panelized construction. You see poured in place concrete houses, with these machines and all this. There's a ton of things coming. It's just that, unlike it's so regional, it's hard to ship a house once you've moved it something. So it kind of almost has to be built there. They compare it to, if I said to you, if Ford just shipped you a box of parts and put them on your driveway and then made you put them together there, that's kind of how we build houses. We ship all the parts to the site and then put it up. But it's hard to do it the other way. Right.
Have the designs changed any?
Absolutely. Okay. They always do.
What's
the
good
colors, now? the room sizes. I think during the 2000s and into the teens, the houses just kept bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, then as the price of everything went up, we finally saw some kind of rational actions. It's like, okay, we can't build them this big. They got to be smaller.
Do you ever have a customer come up to you and you have to say, that isn't going to work? I don't care how many bathrooms you want, but does that happen?
Oh, sure. You have to, use some, you have to be reasonable, some consideration. For sure, some people just they can picture something, but they don't realize you can't build what they can picture.
Right.
And sometimes it's a question really of, is it going to be a wise use of their money? Sure, we could do something, but if you're only going to be here for 5 years, when you go to sell that, is it going to hold? Now, some people, they don't care about that. They want what they want. They'll pay to get it done like they want it. And if they don't get their money out of it when it ends, well, then they're not that worried about it.
Well, thanks for coming in. Congratulations on 50 years. That's amazing. Appreciate and you said you got a third generation working with you now, right?
Yeah, my son, Matthew, he's already been working for us. He's only 30 years old. He took his first paycheck 15 years ago.
So you dragged him in.
He's for sure doing that,
did not follow your
I did not
dad's
follow my dad's
Okay.
Well, actually, I did. I said to him, you should go work for someplace else, or you should go do something else. No, I want to work with you guys.
That's cool.
So he came in. But yeah, no, he's in. He's actually responsible now for our new home sales. He does some project management for us.
At 30.
At 30, yeah. So we're really excited. I think we're very well positioned to keep him moving forward. And he can run this as long as he wants that.
Keeps the community happy.
Yeah, I
All
hope
right.
so.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
All right. That is Mr. Scott Koontz with Koontz Builders. I'm Ron Kinshirf, and this has been the Business Spotlight, Muddy River News, brought to you by TI Trust.
TI Trust stands for true integrity. One of our core values that we had for our staff was integrity.
We want to be seen as a very integrity-driven company.
We've been doing trust services as an organization since the 1950s. It's all based on what's in the best interest of the clients.
At the end of the day, it's about serving that client and getting to a result that they need.
Muddy River News. Our home, our news.